Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, get ready. It is the Saturday morning college football, basketball, baseball, recruiting, blitz, roundtable, ruckus, rumble. Man, duck hunters out everywhere, deer hunters out everywhere. Frank Duffy is going to join us from over in Atlanta. The world's most interesting man has been replaced. It's Frank Duffy, folks. You never know where he is, what he's eating, what he's drinking, but he's on here with us. Doug Dean from Birmingham, the Magic City. Find me a city where everybody pulls together like they do in Birmingham for great causes. I'm talking Auburn, Alabama, UAB, everybody. Birmingham, unmatched anywhere in the civilized world. And that's what matters, the civilized world. All right. Also, Jimmy Hodge from Lake Zurich, Illinois. Get yourself a new map, Illinois. He'll be on with us. And Mark Hamm will check in here in the second segment with us from Knoxville, Rocky Top, Tennessee Tailgate Report. In the second hour, he's going to be with us, Coach Buddy Martin, GatorBaitMedia.com, longtime sports editor of the New York Daily News, the Denver Post, and the St. Petersburg Times. GatorBaitMedia.com. They're on. You got to love this guy. Absolute first-class gentleman. Great true grit journalist. Great storyteller, knows what's going on. Gators play, so he'll be wired in big time today. We're here every Monday through Saturday, 2 hours. We are very blessed to have this format. We have great sponsors, great listeners, have a lot of fun talking with the best guests out there. We have the best team anywhere. We love what we do. We do what we love. Follow us on Twitter at @sidelines_live, folks. A lot of fun, a lot to talk about today. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Spell it. Do I need to spell it for you? All right, let's get in the bullpen right now, warming up a 6'4", 219-pound sophomore from River Ridge, Louisiana, Frank Duffy.
I know you were talking about Michael Stonebreaker. That wasn't me.
you know where Stonebreaker's from.
That's right. River Ridge. Yeah. Absolutely, man.
You remember that great picture? They did the feature about him when he was a linebacker at Notre Dame, and it was Jackson Square in the background.
Yeah.
God, that was great. Doug Dean, bring Doug Dean on with us. Bring Jimmy on with us. We're going to get Hollywood Squares going early. Get that Irish coffee going. Look, guys, bowl games started yesterday because my phone was lighting up with Jimmy's favorite ESPN announcer, Beth Mowins. And you know you've got the top game when Beth Mowins is doing your game. and only thing better would be if Mildred could be there with her on the side. Let's go down the sidelines, check in real quick with Mildred. Mildred, what do you got? Well, I'm looking at all them ball players in the uniforms. Oh, but Doug, the administrator. Doug, I'm going to tell you something, man. Got a lot of fun today. Follow us on Twitter at @sidelines_live. Doug Dean, man, AU Dose, great part of this show. College football right now, it's underway. We got 42 bowl games. It's kind of tough to be left out. You got to really suck to not be in a bowl game. Yeah. So, too bad the Auburn Tigers didn't get the sympathy vote. 5-7 back to back. Well, it's been 3 straight years they've struggled, but starting to see some signs of life with the Tigers. So, what do you think?
Yeah, you are. And Merry Christmas to everyone. I appreciate you leaning into political incorrectness there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think you're pretty safe with this audience and the answers. But, before I get into Auburn and trying to turn things around so that we don't suck like the rest of the 40% that didn't make a bowl game, I have to footnote, which I know will be to the delight of Jimmy and probably the Duff. But, man, I thought it would take a season or two, Rob. But, damn, Hugh Freeze has turned Alabama into a basketball school. I'm right.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
No, well, of course, my friends and rival Bama fans in these parts in Birmingham and throughout Alabama had fun with that Saban had turned Auburn into a basketball. And at least we had that for a few years before maybe we'll start playing football again pretty soon. The way Hugh Freeze is foregoing almost all sleep in order to actually visit recruits. I didn't know, Duff. I didn't know you were allowed to visit recruits. Apparently so.
How shockingly refreshing. I guess Potato Boy didn't get that in the memo.
No, he did not.
And I'm going to deride Harsin for a couple of more weeks, and then I'll start the new year.
He says that every week.
Leave this poor man alone. But gosh almighty, was I ever wrong that he would be our modern day Pat Dye?
Well, and look, you and I had a text chain where we were talking about Ogeron and how far he fell from the Joe Burrow speech. But this is the thing that happens to coaches when they make their own beds. That was their own decisions. It was Harsin's decision not to go and do the type of recruiting that you have to do, especially in a state where Nick Saban is your major rival for recruits. And the same thing with Ogeron. Hey, you want to take your eyes off the prize and then slack off after you reach the summit and not focus on it anymore? You're going to get what you get. That's on them.
Yeah, and just jumping all around the place. I took a playful jab at the Crimson Tide of having what a horrible season, Duff. 2 losses. What a horrible season.
We all wish we had such bad seasons.
Lock the windows, man. Lock the windows.
But this, in fairness, this is a pretty doggone impressive Alabama basketball team, and they'll get to they got a chance to make a really big statement today, taking on Gonzaga. Auburn is on their West Coast tour, taking on USC today. So I'm glad basketball season's here. Rob, on the bowl questions, gosh, wouldn't you hate to – and I could be wrong about this. Football's hard to predict. But one of your guests, I think a Mississippi State guy, I love the way he put it, the art form of predicting future human performance has been elusive at best. But I hate to be Brett Bielema, I call him Bert, and the Illini having to play an emotional, you better believe, Mississippi State team, coached by new guy, Zach Arnett. I think that's any other year that would be a fairly high-risk hire only because he hasn't been a head coach in the big time. But I think it's the only hire, and I think I applaud them for not wasting any time with that. But as someone pointed out, how providential is it, if I may, that they're going to play at Raymond James Stadium with a big pirate ship?
Yeah.
I thought about that. That's
wow.
Eerie to the point of giving you goosebumps.
It is. And, yesterday we were privileged to have Billy Shershot, Texas X kicker for Darrell Royal, been friends with Mike Leach for 32 years, and talking about some of his favorite bars he used to hang out at in Key West. And, we know there's I've been down there a few times. There's Sloppy Joe's, but Captain Tony's.
Oh, Captain Tony's.
And
great bar.
he has a stool with his name on it. Wow. And, and Jimmy and I yesterday at Ken Capps and Bo Carter, we had a young journalist, a freshman at Auburn, William Halliday, joined us late. And I got to tell you, Billy Shershot, Ken Capps, Bo Carter, nationally acclaimed journalists, couldn't have been any more hospitable and get your contact information to me. Ken Capps is going to pay his membership to the Football Writers Association of America.
Oh, cool.
So, and the whole thing is true grit journalists, and that was really cool. Jimmy, we had so much fun hearing those stories about Mike Leach. And I think everybody on this panel knows this. It's about how you treat people. And Mike Leach wasn't perfect. I mean, nobody out there is perfect. But I think Tony Barnhart summed it up best. He goes, guys, let's all stop and pause for a minute and think about what we've lost. Because Mike Leach's, guys like that, they just don't come along that often. But at the end of the day, we have the rivalries. But if we didn't respect each other, they wouldn't mean anything. So I think that was some of those stories yesterday about Mike Leach I mean, he goes, yeah, we don't usually go out till about 11 o'clock, so to eat dinner. So, I mean, I'm like, wow. And he'd stay out, but the man was brilliant. But I think the choice is Zach Arnett. Hopefully he's going to make, I think our friend Brad Logan out of Bruce, Mississippi, Logan Media Network talked about it, is that Zach's a great defensive coach. Now he's going to be the head coach. Hopefully he can still, coach, but I don't know. I've always liked Mississippi State. I just it's Auburn's cousin, sister school. And John Cohen, Auburn's AD, just came from there. Who, by the way, John Cohen's going to be a guest on Sidelines Monday morning at 9 a.m. Central. Looking forward to hearing his vision of what's going on. And we're going to talk to him. He hired Mike Leach, so interesting. But Jimmy, jump in here, man. I'm already drinking the monster drink. I'm sorry, but I'm wired up.
Yeah, well, it's also interesting that I guess by Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, all the Mississippi State players announced that they were going to be playing in the bowl game, which was a, tremendous tribute to Mike Leach.
Yeah.
And even last year, Mike suffered the reality of what's happening in so many of these bowl games when his two tackles opted out, and especially Charles Cross, who was a first round draft pick. And, they suffered from it in that bowl game. And it's just kind of where we're at nowadays. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but within the last 2 days, the NCAA announced a temporary rule that was being instituted, which would allow players that were being redshirted, but were, allowed that redshirt year because they played in only 4 games, where they're waiving that now for the bowl games allow those players to play in that game because of the opt-outs.
Good.
Whether
Smart.
It's a player that knows they're going to be picked in the NFL draft, or it's also covering players who have already announced they're going into the transfer portal and they're not going to play in that bowl game before they leave. And this is going to serve a couple of purposes. One being that the coaches now know what the situation is in preparing for the bowl game, so that they can work much, much more with younger players that they think are going to help them down the road and allow them to get prepared to play in this bowl game, because they know they're going to play in it. Get your mind and body ready for what's going to be a big audition for you. And it's going to allow these coaches to see how they play in the game, but yet also evaluate and it will affect how they're going to evaluate that transfer portal for bringing guys in or not bringing guys in at certain positions if some of these youngsters turn out to play really well in this bowl game.
Yeah. And you know what, Jimmy, we haven't mentioned Doug and Frank and everybody. Bryce Young and Will Anderson have said, correct, that they're going to play. I respect that. And again, I already know what people are going to say. Well, you don't care about these guys making money. Let me say, hey, Frank, you're successful. Jimmy, Doug, we all are. We could all get hurt driving to work. I mean, that's my point. Okay. So Will Anderson, Bryce Young, I'm so glad, because that just says so much about they love Alabama. They love their teammates. Yeah. The Mike Leach thing you just mentioned, Jimmy, thank you for bringing that up. Go ahead, Frank.
No, I agree with you, both of y'all. That's these players, first of all, to Jimmy's point, I think that's a smart move by the NCAA, one of the rare ones. I mean, at least we can say they do make some smart ones. But that's a perfect way to allow these coaches to assess these young players. I don't know if he'll play, but a Walker Howard at LSU, that would be a great opportunity in a game that, quote unquote, doesn't count, for him to go out and play, and for them to get an idea of ready action where it's not going to count against him, even though he hadn't played all year. And to your point, Rob, I do think that's a loyalty and a love for school that these players who now have been set up for life. I mean, both Bryce and Will be set up for life with the contracts they're about to get. I think that is the right move to go and play for your school in a bowl game, especially a game like the Sugar Bowl. I mean, literally 2 miles from where I'm sitting, even if it doesn't have national championship implications, the Sugar Bowl to SEC players, I mean, that should be ingrained in them.
Yeah.
That was normally the end of the rainbow for all those great, Stallings coach teams, Bear Bryant coach teams. I mean, I remember sitting in there and watching Alabama play Ohio State, and I think it was like 79 or 78.
77.
I remember watching them play Notre Dame in 73 for the national championship, 1 and 2. So for them to do that, I think that is a great character move on their part. Hopefully they were smart enough to get insurance policies a long time ago. I would be shocked if both those gentlemen don't have Lloyd's of London, insurance. But I think that is the right move on their part. And I applaud them for that. And, I think their legacy, I think people's legacy when they do those types of things, it's stronger than it would be if they do opt out. I mean, I'll never forget Leonard Fournette, being one of the first quote unquote opt outs, not playing in the bowl game. And, you can't unforget it. It's something that leaves a bad taste in your mouth if you love that school and think, hey, if not for our school and not for, giving you the opportunity, you wouldn't have scored touchdowns in the Super Bowl. And so it's just, I think it's awesome for both those gentlemen to do that.
I do too. Hold those thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. God love you, Frank, the world's most interesting man in the quarter. The smell of fresh vomit in the air. I'll be right back.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back with Jimmy Hodge, Frank Duffy in New Orleans, Doug Dean, Birmingham. Roundtable is alive and kicking on this Saturday. Frank, great comments you made going into the break. And I just Audrey and I were talking, Tommy Kane over in Atlanta, NC State, walk on, Wolfpack for life. He made that statement the other day, and this is what I say. To Bryce Young, Will Anderson, God love you. Bryce Young is the best player in college football, hands down, in my opinion.
He really is.
And I just got to see that. Yeah. And in the interest of full disclosure, I am an Auburn graduate and I love that school, but I'm going to be fair to everybody. There's no agenda here, but I got to tell you, man, Jimmy, you're right. At the Tennessee-Alabama game, that duel between Hendon Hooker and Bryce Young, I know this is a stretch, but it's true. I sat on the couch as a small boy in 1969 and watched Archie Manning and Scott Hunter go at it. But you're talking Hendon Hooker, potential, top 2 or 3 rounder. Bryce Young, potential number 1 pick in the draft. If it's not his teammate, Will Anderson, that's how good he is.
Well, and their only 2 losses, he played like a stud. I was in Tiger Stadium when we beat Alabama, and Bryce Young almost single-handedly brought them back to win that ball game. I mean, the guy is just a incredible talent. And the crazy thing, Bryce Young will leave Alabama not having won a national championship, and he might have been the best quarterback that Alabama's had through this run. With all due respect to Tua and Jalen, he might have been the best.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to go into the McLaughlin group. Doug Dean, Frank Duffy, is he wrong or right?
I like everything y'all are saying, and I was in my mind to offer this opinion. The Heisman was awarded a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't watch it, didn't care. I don't know who, some guy from USC won. I just don't care. But God is my witness. With Lightning, available, if I don't tell the truth, I would have. If I'm a Heisman voter, I would have voted for Bryce Young. And I realize that's counterintuitive because, I guess it's really not the spirit of the Heisman Award over the years has been skewed and distorted a little bit. It's more of a media creation and blocks. It's almost like a national election. You get into these regional biases and so on. But my reasoning is Alabama was a 4. I hope this is not disrespectful, Jimmy, but Alabama was a 4-loss team if you take Bryce Young out of the mix.
No doubt. No doubt.
I say that respectfully, not derisively at all. So,
and because of him, they almost was a no-loss team.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Jimmy, along with what Frank he just said, 5 games went down to the last play.
I tell you this, and it's weird that I'm becoming an Alabama apologist for a second.
You're wrong.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, if we had a 12-team or even an 8-team playoff this year, who's to say Alabama couldn't roll right through it for another championship?
Hey, I all my Georgia friends, I'm telling you right now, I was sitting in the SEC championship game. I knew my Tigers really didn't have a chance. I was sitting there, and when you literally could feel the worry on that day when the dominoes started falling, I heard one guy, "Oh my God, it's going to be them." I mean, I literally heard those words sitting in the end zone of MBS. "Oh my God, it's going to be them." And you're right, Doug. If Alabama would have gotten it, if this was a 6-team tourney, nobody would have wanted to play them. Nobody.
Nobody's happier than Georgia that Alabama's not in it. And
no doubt.
We all really like Bill Hancock, but when he was on our podcast and said with a straight face that we got the 4 best teams, that's just absolutely a joke. Ohio State, in the big matchup of the year, loses by 3 touchdowns.
Crap the bed.
Oh, and 3 weeks earlier struggled for dear life against a 1-win Northwestern team. This is in November now. And then held on against Maryland and won by, I think they ended up, the real margin was 4 points, but then on the final play of the game, Maryland had the ball on their own 15-yard line, do all that multilateral stuff, and Ohio State guy intercepts one of those laterals and scores a touchdown to make the score more misleading than it was.
Yeah, it was window dressing.
And again, there was just so much Alabama fatigue out there that's a big part of it. But I can remember Bill back when, they first went to the playoff, one day, right now the playoffs just not in the best interest of college football. It's just, we got to protect these bowl games, the tradition of the game. Then the next day when they make the change, the playoffs, we're really an exciting new frontier for college football, and Bill's job is to be the messenger for whatever the powers that be.
Yeah, he's marketing it.
What's going to go forward with college football and how it's run.
Well, I will tell you this, Jimmy. I'll guarantee you if Alabama played Michigan, Ohio State, or TCU on a neutral field, not only would they win, but they would be favored before the game. And Vegas doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And I know it's not really a determining thing of what's going to happen in the game. It's they want to get equal sides of bets on it. But I would guarantee you in those 3 games, right, if they were played right now down the street in the Superdome, Alabama would be favored in all three of those games.
Yeah, with
Like-
Bryce Young at 100% now also.
Correct.
Well, and here's the thing. And again, Doug, you talked about not being a Bama apologist. I mean, you can't pick and choose your seasons and your games. Again, a lot of teams, everybody has players get injured and all like that. But when you're talking, in this case of Bryce Young, high profile, the Heisman Trophy, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, he played hurt. I mean, have any of y'all ever hurt a shoulder? And if you have,
I got one now.
Yeah,
my shoulder's killing me now, and
Yeah.
I can barely get out of bed. Of course, I'm 61, about to be 62, but it's a different story. But man, when your shoulder
It's
doesn't
horrible.
feel good, you can't
Yeah.
even. I can't even sleep sometimes
You ought to
on this
try-
shoulder.
Well, you get it. I tell you where you get it during duck season a lot is from rolling those big old pits back and forth. And if you're on the end, your weak arm. And anyway, it hurts so bad you'll be laying under the covers and you'll roll over and catch your arm on the sheets and it'll go the other way and you'll let out a blood curdling scream.
Last night,
Oh,
the exact
Lord.
same thing friggin' happened. I'm telling you, you're
Rob,
exactly right.
Rob,
I heard it.
Rob, you
Rob-
mentioned
Yeah.
I'll cut out in about 8 minutes, guys, and leave the roundtable to you guys and Scarborough or whoever else you're bringing in the Hollywood Squares. But
Petunia.
I'll tell you, I think that what will be fascinating as we head into a new year, and it's been on my mind, I'm doing a little research on it, is the new frontier of academic standards for student athletes. And I just wonder, and this is probably heretical or at least controversial, that I think there is a vestige of the NCAA, and we're disassembling quite a few of the things like you can't pay players. Well, we're paying players now. And I realize the language says no pay for play, but this is pay for play. Let's be real. It's just, money laundering through NIL collectives.
That's about right.
Ended. But now the next frontier, and it really began a couple of years ago. I'm probably going to have to lean on Jimmy's granular knowledge of every detail that ever flows through college football. He's just amazing at that. But they relaxed or eliminated the standardized testing requirement, and the basis for that, they said, this is not my words, to be clear and not stir controversy, that it would help reduce racial biases standards. And now I'll let each listener decide, is that the quote soft bigotry of low expectations? And I realized I was not a test taker, ended up doing pretty well in college, but I realized that standardized tests have some problems. But where I'm going with this is, there's some Notre Dame haters, I'm sure, in the audience. But Notre Dame has always had an unfair advantage when it comes to admissions. Other schools have, for whatever reason, mostly to win football games, basketball games, they've found ways to have degree programs that, I'll be kind here, let's just say they're less demanding than engineering. And so what is going to happen next? I'm curious. Why can't there be a vocational education option, for example? I know I'm serious when I say this. I have friends that own 100 body shop stores across the country. They cannot hire that elite level body. Those guys make $120,000 a year. But where are we headed with the abolition of the NCAA as we know it, and where will academic standards fall into that?
I'll say something real quick, and I about standardized testing. Okay, all that stuff you're talking about, throw it out the window. Some people are just good at taking tests, some are not. Audrey, my wife, has a master's in elementary education, degree in psychology, Orton Gillingham trained with teaching dyslexic children, and I've seen her take kids in a 180, and a lot of it. What I've learned from hanging around her, I'm married to her, so I'm around her a lot. And just me, my own person, having a learning disability as a kid and an IQ off the charts. When I was at Auburn, I got tested for that diagnostic testing. They took the time to invest in me. And my mother said, I've been telling you all your life, but I got held back in second grade. There you go. So there are things that you can do, and you got to take advantage of them. And don't be embarrassed if you got issues, but some people are great at taking tests, some are not. But never, ever lower the standard. always raise the bar. Always be looking for ways to raise the bar. That's the number one thing we got to do. And you're right. Memphis has Tech High School over there. More Tech. It's funded by a trust. And there's a great commercial with John Malmo, Archer Malmo, one of the top ad executives in the country. One of his greatest quotes ever. You know, a restaurant can spend $1 million renovating with brass and walnuts and beautiful paintings and artwork. If they've got greasy salt and pepper shakers and dirty bathrooms, it's a deal killer. Well, he talks about, hey, Saturday morning, hotshot banker, lawyer, doctor, needs a plumber, needs someone to come out there and fix something. You know, where's he going to find him? Go train. You get 15 or 20 trucks. All of a sudden, you're making a lot of money. And if you got some personality to go with it, you can write but you're right. Not everybody needs some stupid degree from a liberal arts college that charges $80,000 a year in the antiquities or Elizabethan poetry. Okay. I mean, what are you going to do with that thing? Now,
Rob, where I'm going with it before I cut out is I'm speaking to the philosophical, the legal, I guess the constitutional question of where are we headed with that NCAA or the SCOTUS ruling on NIL? I think at the heart of it, the foundation of it was the freedom that every citizen should have to go make a living however they wish. Yeah. And so what I'm railing against, I'm asking the really fundamental question, what was the point of the NCAA's and college presidents and ADs original charter and bylaws to focus so heavily on the student athlete, academic requirements, progress toward a degree? Was it that sort of the guilt factor that we felt we didn't want to be called a football factory?
And it was their power. It was solidifying their power over the free market. And you're right. As these things erode, who's to say that good old University of Illinois can't have like you said, an alternative program for electricians and have these kids come in and do this to where they don't have the Notre Dame type requirements or the Northwestern, to use a more apt analogy as a, cross reference to, the University of Illinois. I think you could see it, Doug. Absolutely you could. And let me tell you something, for electricians and plumbers, I got a good buddy of mine, Jay Cunningham, who owns a huge plumbing business in Atlanta. They're paying these initiation fees to these kids to come in, bonuses, sign-up bonuses, to come be an electrician, to be an apprentice electrician. They're paying them $35,000, $50,000 just to get somebody that doesn't have 1,000 tattoos and a criminal record. It's incredible.
You can become a millionaire running those businesses.
No doubt. No doubt. And Jay has,
Yeah. I mean, listen, this is all we're saying is, you not everybody's going to get a degree in engineering or building science or finance, but you've got to be trained and got to have a skill to do something. Now, what did Liam Neeson said? You don't know me, but I have a particular set of skills. You better have a particular set of skills.
Hey, we all can't be as fortunate as my good friend Doug Dean and have a son-in-law that's a brain surgeon. Doug Dean hit the son-in-law lottery. That's all I'm telling you. And both son-in-laws, because actually the one I really want to go hang out and have beers with is the guy that was running the personnel department for the San Francisco 49ers. That's the one I really want to go hang out with, my Braves buddy.
Yeah. We've been very fortunate with son-in-laws. One more to go, but it's just, I don't know. I'm not the kind that wants to preach as if this is all cataclysmic and it's bad. I think it's just more chaotic and disruptive of change than at any point in our lifetime, and it'll be fun to watch how it evolves.
But don't be disingenuous, NCAA. Don't be doing one thing on one hand and then have this high-handed pomposity on the other.
This is the perfect segue for me to lead into this. This is something we're about to launch here in the new year on Sidelines. We're going to start doing a podcast called Financial Literacy. Okay. And I'll be using this panel here, but it's going to be talking because I got this idea. It really hit me when we had Bill Courtney on the show. Bill Courtney produced a documentary called Undefeated about Manassas High School in North Memphis, where he coached for 7 years. And one of the examples he used was one of the kids on the team. He said, "How much you think your grandmother's house cost?" And he said, $5,000. and he lived in a rather large house in Germantown. And he said, "How much you think my house cost?" He goes, $10,000. And I mean, that may have paid for a few of the bricks in the garage, but I mean, that's the thing. And if you've got athletes that are going, that are teach them financial literacy and teach them how to live below their means. And I always tell clients of mine that have money, it's all, every client I have that has a lot of money says, "Man, we didn't have a lot of money and we had 4 or 5 kids running around. Life was a lot simpler. Now, even the relatives that we don't even know, they love us because they think they're getting something from us." And financial literacy, we're going to get into that. And
that should be taught to all students, not just athletes.
No, to everybody.
To all students.
You need to learn how to read a balance sheet and a ledger. My best friend since birth, Boyd Wade, he learned how to read a balance sheet when he was like 6 and 7 years old. Debits and credits and all. Now he's a CPA with personality. He ain't no Howard Sprague. We'll be right back talking more college football and basketball. Doug.
Guys.
All right. Shalom, Doug. We'll see you next week. All right. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Hey, buddy.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959, right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you. Doug Dean, always love having Doug Dean, the great one from Birmingham on. Now, Rocky Top, Tennessee, tailgate report from Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm going to tell you what a year he has had. Mark Hamm, one of the world's most interesting men, Frank Duffy down in New Orleans. And that would be Mark Hamm, Marcus Aurelius. Okay. The Gladiator, is that you down there? Hey, by the way, I was looking through some YouTube things. My friend Steve Phelan, a regular listener of the show, we have a thing about Cape Fear, a movie that came out in the early 90s, 91 or 92. Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro may be the greatest character actor of all time, but that scene when he is, Nick Nolte has paid those ruffians to come over there and get Mr. Max Cady and beat him senseless, and he turns the tables and whips their butts, and all of a sudden Nick Nolte's hiding over there behind the dumpster, and he kicks a can, and he makes a noise, and Robert De Niro goes, "Counselor. Is that you out there, counselor?" That's one of the great. He goes, "I ain't no white trash. I'm better than all of you. I can outread you, I can outlearn you, and I can out-philosophize you." But I don't know if I can out-philosophize Jimmy Hyde. So
that wasn't from Deliverance, was it?
No, that was Cape Fear. As Burt Reynolds said at the Orpheum in Memphis years ago, I went to see this thing. Now, my dad has only been to about 3 or 4 movies in his life, and he's fallen asleep in every one of them. The Muppets, Lawrence of Arabia, and Burt Reynolds got up there and talked about his career in the movies. He said, "We spent 11 weeks up in North Georgia and Cleveland or Ellijay, Audrey, where you used to hang out." And he said, one of the things I got to tell you is that the casting call for extras and participants in the movie was the easiest thing we ever did. All the locals showed up. "Boy, you ain't from around here, is you? Got your pretty mouth." But anyway, let's get back on college football, man. This is great stuff. Mark Hamm, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report. We've been having a lot of fun. And, your son's working with Tennessee now in the athletic department. And he's learning a lot. And I'm sure he's learned what's off the record, OPSEC, things like that. And we had yesterday William Halliday on the show. I've known his dad, Bubba Halliday, and his grandfather, Bill Halliday, who passed away several years ago. The whole family is like you. They bleed orange and white, like Jimmy grew up going to Neyland Stadium. And the kid's a freshman in journalism at Auburn. It was cool. He wanted to learn and shadow us and be on the show. And that was fun yesterday. We got to get Will on the show. What's the general atmosphere up there right now for Tennessee with the 10-2 record? You got signing date coming up next week, early signing date in December. You've got to be excited. And also give us an update on the volunteer Big Orange Curling League.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the important thing, the curling league. You know, we're 15-0 right now. We got the championships coming up, so we're really excited about that. I think
you're not kidding, are you?
We're going to take home the title again. No, so football wise, I'll tell you, I mean, what a season, right? I mean, it's been unbelievable. I think everyone's is still excited, obviously, about things. I think there's a little disappointment toward the end of the year. I mean, you kind of saw, a lot of the momentum, the wind taken out of ourselves. I mean, we lost at Georgia, but that South Carolina loss was devastating for us, to keep us out probably of course, with the way those idiots vote, who knows? We might not even gotten in even if we had beat South Carolina. So anyway, we're doing fine. I think people were a little disappointed with that. Hendon Hooker getting, the ACL tear was devastating. And then, for him to not even be able to go to, the Heisman, to even go to the get together there on the presentation. I was a little shocked by that. Why Stetson Bennett was there, I don't know. You got the the SEC Player of the Year, but yet Stetson Bennett goes. So yeah, I was a little pissed about that. But look, we're going to be okay. I don't know how many players we're going to have playing in the Orange Bowl because two of our best players have opted out, the wide receivers. But look, it's still going to be a great experience. I think the greatest thing about it is we got Nico, our 5-star quarterback, is on campus. He's actually practicing with the team now, so he's going to get some practice in. So, I think we're on the up and up.
Wow, Jimmy, he's there.
Well, I want to know if that means his portion of the $8 million NIL deal is already kicked in.
Merry Christmas!
Yeah, it's gonna be a Merry Christmas.
I would think it probably has at this point. I don't know what he's driving around campus, but I do know he stepped on the tee yesterday and he had to do push-ups. So there was a video leaked about that.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, can't do that, man. That's a no.
Yeah, that is a feature of what's going on, though, at all these Power 5 schools, these early commits, that have already signed. They are, for the most part, already on campus participating with their teams and in a lot of cases probably helping on the scout team to try to give these starters a good look of what their opponents are going to be running in the bowl game.
Mark,
I think you're right.
Yeah, and Mark, in Tennessee, like Jimmy is talking about with Miko Lamaliva. I think I got that name right. I hope I do better with that than I did DJ Uglia. Just like every time I go, Rob, we've done it 1,000 times.
DJ Ukulele.
Ukulele. But Miko Lamaleva sounds like a bar of soap. Lamaleva, great for your skin. But $8 million NIL deal. I mean, I don't know what the small print says. We just know what the big print says. But the small print is what matters. So
there's no small print when it comes to $8 million.
Yeah, no, there's not. There's not. But I just wonder, how he's going. But guys, you look at the job Tennessee did this year. They pushed up. I doubt they were thinking too much about the South Carolina game late in the season. And they go down there and it looked like Little Bighorn, man. It was bad. And then to make it worse, Hendon Hooker got hurt. But you said in the preseason, Mark, Jimmy, you remember this, and Frank, you said, my prediction is on the Cumberland Strip in Knoxville, there will be a happy Hooker this year for Tennessee. And they went 10-2. He got hurt in the 11th game. Overall, if I'm a Tennessee fan, I got a lot of Tennessee friends that listen. You got to be excited. And when you bring in a 5-star quarterback, I mean, that is just flypaper that attracts other top-notch recruits. Talk about this recruiting momentum you got right now. A signing date coming up this week, early signing period.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a lot of momentum. I mean, look, I don't know what NIL looks like. I know that my son is working not only for the university, but he's working for an NIL startup here as well. So they are actually. Well, I don't know if I can divulge who they're talking to, but it's a pretty big name on the team right now.
Yeah.
So, I think you're going to get a lot of people looking at it. You're going to get a lot of people that are willing to come and be part of this now. It's legal to pay players, really.
It's an arms race. It's an arms race.
Exactly.
And I tell you what, whether you're the cheater or the lion, come up, sun up, you better be running.
You're right.
And you're going to be competing against everybody. It's a net sum game. And if you ain't doing it, your competitors are.
Bingo. And look, I think we're going to be fine there. I mean, obviously we were early in this. We signed and everybody went nuts about us signing, Nico, I'm assuming it's $8 million. My son actually told me that he verified it as $8 million over 4 years. A little more back-ended than front-end loaded, I guess, to have some to try to keep him here. But when you have that kind of money, and we have the money from the boosters here to do that, and like Bama and everybody in the SEC, you're going to get a lot of players that are willing to come here. And I think, look, it's not going to be just about the money. It's going to be about playing time in the system. And if, you look at a guy like Nico who can sling the ball. I don't know if you've ever seen film on the guy. I mean, this guy he's Peyton Manning like. I mean, he's 6'5", he's very thin, and he's got a cannon. But
Jimmy's talked about him. You've talked about him, Jimmy. Like a year or two ago, you had him on your radar.
Yeah, and and here's the other thing: we're getting all these wide receivers. I mean, here's the other thing: it's Carnell. I forgot his last name. He had gone to Ohio State or committed to Ohio State, and we think we're going to flip him. I mean, he's out wearing Tennessee stuff now. So if you're a wide receiver, and we just got a guy that won the Biletnikoff Award, it's going to be going to the first round. Why would you not want to come to Tennessee? I mean, we're throwing the ball around. My buddy, Tom Rainey, my good buddy Tom Rainey yesterday texted me. He goes, "Hey, I've been doing this thing for the last however many years that I give, I think $5 or $10 or whatever it is for every touchdown Tennessee football scores." He goes, "I wrote my check this week," and he goes, "I can tell you,
it's a little painful.
It was 3 times as much as it was during both adding Bush Jones and Pruitt together." He goes, "It was more." So
which he gladly wrote.
Yeah. Yep. So here's the thing. I think we're going to get a lot of players if you're offensive minded, and the portal. I mean, in the portal, we're going to pick up some players. We just signed some kid that's 6'8", 350 pounds. I mean, good Lord. He's like one of the number one junior college players on the offensive line. He's huge.
I think it's fair to say Tennessee's back.
Yeah, I think
it's fair to say.
Tom Rainey did that?
Yeah, Tom writes a check. So he sent me a text.
I love it.
I can read it to you, but he sent it to me yesterday, and I was laughing, and I said, yeah, I remember the days on the tickets. We don't have, paper tickets anymore, but on the back of the tickets, it said, if we win or score a touchdown, come get a Big Mac. I said, those days are done.
Yeah.
I mean, really, a Big Mac. I can remember going to McDonald's at Summer and Waring in East Memphis as a kid and getting a Big Mac, large order of fries, cherry pie, and a large Coke for $1.86. And that wasn't bad. Of course, some people can remember further.
You gotta have Nico money to buy that. Get a Big Mac today.
Yeah, it ain't cheap. Hey guys, this is really neat. Now, looking at the big picture of college football, we talked about this earlier, and Jimmy, and what the significance. And I think, and you talked about with Leonard Fournette, went to St. Aug down in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And I've become a big fan of his in the NFL. I do like him, but I don't like that when he left his team and quit on them. I don't.
He was one of the first.
Yeah, it's called quitting. It's called quitting. And so he quit on his team for that bowl game. You say, well, it doesn't matter. Again, as long as they're charging the fans money for the tickets, hotel rooms, airfare, gas, food, travel, and just tell you something. As a long time duck hunter, that takes a toll on your marriage, and it costs you a lot in terms of letting your wife go shopping and doing a lot of things. I'll tell you, you just if they're, as long as they're keeping score, it should matter. And I mean, God, Bryce Young, Will Anderson, that speaks to their character. And I also think Bryce Young's got a pretty good future doing commercials. That Dr. Pepper commercial where he kind of sneaks in on the family. Jimmy, I think he's got Hollywood written all over him. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's photogenic, looks natural in the commercials, but I think what really sealed this deal though for them to play, because Gary mentioned it on Thursday, was that both players wanted to play, but there were outside forces, and I think the fact that the school was able to secure the Lloyds of London policy was what clinched it. But I think going forward, I had always thought before the season, over the last 3 or 4 years, that the Power 5 schools who knew they had multiple players that were likely to be picked early in the NFL draft had policies through the school. But, those type of issues always change every year as far as what the rules and regulations are for it. So, that's probably going to be ever evolving. But I was going to ask Mark, with offensive coordinator Alex Golish taking the USF job, are there any names being speculated on who the new offensive coordinator is going to be at Tennessee to work with Heupel?
Yeah, I saw an article a week or two ago, and they were throwing out some different names. And to be honest with you, I didn't even read all of it. I'm trying to think of who some of those guys were. They had mentioned a few guys, but none of them really stood out. I haven't heard any more, to be honest with you. I've been out of town. I've been traveling so much, but I'll see if I can find out who they're looking at. But every time we think we know who it is, it ends up being somebody else. But what they have been saying is they think they may promote from within, and I forgot the coach's name from within. They think that he's been with Heupel for years, and they think he's at a, oh gosh, tells you how much I know about my balls here. He's one of the position coaches right now, and they seem to think he might be the guy because he knows the offense so well.
That would make sense. Would make sense.
A lot of times it's somebody that's on staff. Josh Heupel, I think y'all all would agree, he actually gets to coach a lot. And a lot of head coaches, they don't get to. And I think that's why he's so successful, because he's got hands-on, but he looks to me like he lets his coordinators coach. So that, I think the logical choice would be to take a guy that already knows all the intricacies of that system. It'll be interesting to watch. Going to flip questions. We got about a minute and a half before the break. You look now, and people aren't really talking about it that much, but they are, but Georgia-Ohio State game coming up. I think this game, and Jimmy talked about it going back to 2014 when Ohio State beat Alabama 42-35 in the Sugar Bowl. Kirby's got that in his mind. This Ohio State team is coming down there playing with house money. This matchup, I like. I mean, what did Ohio State accomplish this year? They were 11-0, lost at the end at home badly to Michigan, struggled against the worst Northwestern team in the last 15 or 20 years. And, they've had some that aren't so good, but they beat Penn State. I mean, Penn State, just because they're in the Northeast, they get a lot of votes. And I agree. I like Bill Hancock. I think he's awesome. But Tennessee or Alabama, one of those two should have been in this 4-team college football playoff. And I'm going to predict Georgia gets after Ohio State like they got after Oregon.
Boat racism.
Tennessee. Yeah. I think Kirby Smart is a master motivator. I like his quote, either you're elite or you're not. What he's saying is there's no in between. Okay. And make fun of Alabama all you want for being upset about 10-2. That's why they win all the time, because they do not tolerate losing. That's a message to all of us. We'll be right back with more Sidelines Saturday Roundtable after this quick break.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection. and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with, 4 squares, but 3 squares. We got one missing square. Most interesting man, Frank Duffy, be right back. Jimmy Hodge, Mark Hamm, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report, Frank Duffy and Rob Browne. Want to say something real quick about my friend. I met Mike Gittins at SEC Media Days. We've had him on the show before. He's part of the War Report that covers Auburn. Great group of guys. Mike G is in the hospital, St. Francis Hospital in Columbus. I talked to him a couple of days ago. He's just a cool guy. Grew up in Phoenix City, Auburn grad, and he's got major medical issues he's working through. He's tough. He'll get through it. But if you see it out there, Mike G's Medical Fund, it's a GoFundMe page. And if you could help out, that would be great. There's been a lot of people contributing. They have a goal of $50,000, but it's Mike G's Medical Fund, and he is fantastic. Look, I asked him if he could be on the show on the Roundtable, but he can't because he's in ICU and they want to wake up the people around him. But trust me, he wanted to. But he's in our prayer. Great guy, Mike.
Prayers for you, Mike. Prayers for you, Mike.
Absolutely. And anybody, whether you're an LSU or Tennessee, if we can help you on this show, that's what we're going to do. We love to give. We ain't wanting anything, but prayers for you. And it's Mike G's Medical Fund out there under GoFundMe. Frank, I want to get you back on here. Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
I was just going to say, Rob, I'm sorry. I was gone. I was answering a text from our good buddy, Maury Gaston, and he had said that we are the something group of commentators ever. And Maury is so smart that I had to actually look up to see what that word meant because I assumed he was giving us a compliment. I just wasn't sure. With that LSU degree, I had to go to Google to find out what was that's why I was answering Maury. By the way, Maury might be our greatest guest and our greatest
ambassador,
voyeur and ambassador and sponsor that this show's ever had because I don't think but here's the problem. Maury will critique you. If you're off the game, Maury's going to tell you, man. He's that smart. I had a great time meeting Maury for coffee here in New Orleans when he traveled in one time for an event. And he is a smart fella. It was great getting to meet Maury.
I've known him 40 years. Met him when I was a pledge on the back 40 deck at about 3 o'clock in the morning. Starched white button down, khakis, loafers. Maury Gaston, mechanical engineer, Sylacauga, Alabama. How you doing? Damn glad to meet you. But he wasn't rush chairman.
I had no need for steel or iron, but I almost bought some at the breakfast.
That's right. American Cast Iron Pipe Company and Spiral Weld. Maury, I call Maury our Merv Griffin. The guy's like going, he connects everybody. You just think of Maury on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills doing lunch. Hey, Mark, Jimmy, you get your people together with my people, and Frank, we'll get our people together. We'll do us a lunch. Who loves you, baby? Who loves you, baby? Right. And it gotta love it. And he said we were the most erudite group of sports talk.
I know. People. That's what I said. I had to look it up.
Jimmy, have you ever been called erudite?
No. And also, Maury's got that Floyd the Barber angle too on Andy Griffith's show, because he kind of he knows the in and outs of a lot of things that are going on. But I wanted to provide you guys a medical update that is kind of unfortunate. At the end of the show yesterday, Ken Capps and Bo Carter had sent a text, about the show and so forth. And I was calling back Ken because he had wanted to talk a little bit more about Mike Leach, and I was going to give him at least a couple of stories that I knew. And I didn't realize when I read or maybe it was an email chain, but anyway, I dialed the number and it was Bo's cell phone number, and I thought it was Ken. And he said, "Well, you got the wrong number." And then after he hung up, the voice, that was Bo. I called Bo's number. So I called Bo back and said, "Hey, Bo, really sorry about that." And we started talking about Mike Leach a little bit. And during the middle of my phone call, it was so bizarre. Bo said, "Jimmy, you're not going to believe this, but I believe I just broke my ankle."
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh.
What? How? And I'm going to myself, my phone call caused him to be distracted. But now he didn't know. So I was hoping it was only a really bad sprain or something. But he sent me a text this morning saying he's having surgery today.
Oh, my gosh. You kidding me?
Late yesterday, and I didn't get the text. So just everybody think about Bo.
Yeah.
The surgery goes well. But I'm going to myself, only I can make a phone call that results into somebody having
no. Phone calls, Jimmy, phone calls with you and Maury are like being in grad school. I mean,
that's right.
You just got to take notes. But no, listen, we love Bo Carter. I didn't realize he was cousins with my good friends Jack and John Turner from Memphis. They're all from Alabama. And we're all from Alabama. That's one of Hank Jr.'s. That song, climbing up old Ajax Mountain, and Dinosaur Man, guitar singer. Just a natural born. That may be the best album he ever did, and that was almost 50 years ago. But no, we love Bo Carter, Ken Capps, all those guys. Dave Cody introduced me to Bo Carter, our great friend who's listening right now out in Bellingham, Washington. Dave is went to Jeff Davis High School in Montgomery, Auburn grad, and of course had an older brother, still does, named Bill Cody, Wild Bill Cody, All-American linebacker at Auburn in 66.
Played for the Saints.
Yeah. In fact, Dave said that he lived on the same street with Archie Manning, so they grew up together. I don't know what it is about New Orleans, but my great-great-grandfather was buried on St. Charles Avenue at Christ Episcopal Church. I feel connected to that state. He lived in Thibodeau for 20 years. Thibodeau. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Thibodeau.
Which is where the Manning Passing Academy is. Everything's interconnected down here. I'm telling you.
It is. All right, interconnected now. We have the Oracle of Delphi, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Buddy Martin, GatorBaitMedia.com.
Mayor of Simpletown. That's his best title.
No, governor of the state of Simpletown, one of the nicest people you will ever meet, and True Grit Journalism, Wilton Martin. I love that name. Buddy Martin, welcome to Sidelines. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year to everybody out there listening. But Buddy, let's go. What's on your mind? Yeah, unmute your mic, Buddy. We cannot. Okay, Buddy, you there? Okay.
I am here,
ahead, buddy.
I am here. Okay. I hope it's working. The sign said it was muted, but anyway, after hearing the Taylor and Jimmy story, I'm gonna get off this phone call right now. I've had enough of that stuff.
Well, you're sitting down though, buddy. Yeah. I feel good about your chances of getting through it. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Very good. So good. Hello, everybody. How you doing? Bill Cody. He was a great linebacker at Auburn, and he intercepted Spurrier, I think, 3 times. Twice in one game. Saw those games. Anyway, when you mention those names, I can't help it. And I think about Cody, and I think about Cody, Wyoming, where I have a dear friend, Tom Roach, from there. And, of course, Mike Leach was born and raised in Cody, Wyoming, and he's been on our hearts and minds in a big way the last couple of days. I don't know about you guys, but
absolutely.
We talked about it a lot. And I just want to say, without setting any kind of morbid tone of anything, it's been an awakening for a lot of people.
Yes.
About Mike Leach, including myself. And I've written about him, I've talked about him, and I've listened to Feinbaum's people talk about him for 4 days. And I'm absolutely stunned at the response of people about Mike Leach. And I feel like, I wrote my column, I wish I would have known him. I did not. And I actually, this has been a tough week for the Martin family. My wife had a heart attack on the same day that Mike Leach did. And of course, Mike passed away. So I'm probably more tuned into that than I would be normally.
Yeah.
She's doing well right now. She's home, and thank
God.
doctors. Yeah, it was I'll just say one thing too. If you ever have any real serious chest pains, call 911.
Yeah.
Do not try to drive yourself, because the doctor told me if we had, she wouldn't be here. So that's how critical it is. You got to be sure and think. If you have and don't have, if you're married or whatever, my wife and I have an agreement. It's honesty. When you're not feeling right, you got to tell the other person.
Yes.
You can't lie about it. You can't say, "Oh, I don't want to." But no, if you're having chest pains, you say, "I'm having chest pains," and they're bad.
Left arm as well. Yep.
There's many other sweating, all that stuff. But without going into all that clinical diagnosis, I'm grateful today. I'm very grateful to have her here. I'm grateful for have my life to be here, and also I'm grateful for what Mike Leach did, even though I didn't know him, and I just deeply touched by him and his story. I talked to Steve Spurrier about him. As you know, Steve's son, Steve Jr., works for him. Steve Jr. will call the plays in the bowl game, and my heart is full about Mike Leach and what a remarkable person he was. And I got to tell you guys, I've been around a long time, and I've known hundreds of coaches, and two things come to mind. Number one, I'm worried about coaches right now. They're in such enormous stress, and we see what happens. Yeah. And Mike Leach has taught us this one thing: it's not just about the wins. It's just not, And we make it that, and we're guilty of that. And I get it, all that. But the fact is that Mike, nobody's touched the sports community and football like Mike Leach since Bear Bryant.
It has been amazing, buddy. You're right. And I think the suddenness of it too, the fleetingness of life, and for someone that has done so much good to be taken so early, I think it has been a mental and emotional and psychological check for a lot of people who didn't know the man personally. It's like, but those in the college football community that love college football, I'm telling you, it's been a tough week. It really has.
Well, buddy, you talked about it, and everybody on here, you've known a lot of coaches over the years, and I didn't know Mike Leach. I know we had yesterday, Billy Sure Shot, Texas ex-kicker for Darrell Royal, was a friend of Mike Leach's for 32 years, hung out with him in the Keys and everywhere else. Ken Capps, Bo Carter, they knew him from the Big 12 days. And it's story after story after story. People that don't know each other. And it's the same common theme. They love the guy, and he was really a special person. But I watched Feinbaum, which I do every day. We all do, whether you admit it or not. I like it. And it was a bus driver, remember Buddy that called in earlier in the week? And he just said, he took the time to make me feel like I was important. He said, "You're not just a bus driver. You're our window to the outside world. You drive our team. You get us there safely. You take recruits and their families." He goes, "Here's my cell phone number. Stay in touch with me." And I think the message there is, don't judge people. Again, try not to. I mean, by their money or their clothes. Find out what you can do to help other people. You'll get rich for it. But don't give to get, give to give. Mike Leach did a lot of things, and I talked to some students in our hunting club that are in school right now at Mississippi State, and they are just torn up about it. They were like, "We saw him every day. He was just wearing those cargo shorts and a hoodie around and a T-shirt. I mean, that's Mike Leach." And Tony Barnhart said, Buddy, earlier this week on the show, he goes, "Let's stop and pause for a moment and think about what we've just lost." Because guys like Mike Leach don't come along that often. And, Buddy, I think you can appreciate it. And Mark and Jimmy and Frank and everybody. And Buddy is one of the great writers of our time. You're going to write about it. Even though you didn't know him, you can write about things and put it in the vernacular like very few people can. And God bless you for it.
Well, thank you very much. And I wanted to say that along the lines of Feinbaum, I know he's a pinata. We like to kick him around a lot, but let me just say, he elevated his game to way above anything we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Those shows this week
Yes.
were just unbelievable. Not him. He was the gatekeeper, but the people who call this show. Let me give you an example. Mike Leach. Who's Mike Leach? Two of the guys who hate each other the most and go at it every single day, hammer and tong on fire. I mean, viciously every day. One guy's named Tuscaloosa Jim.
Oh, yeah.
Who's an egomaniac, as we know, whatever, and he's got his thing, and Paul lets him come in and do his thing. And the guy who hates him the most is I-Man, the Auburn fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
He absolutely hates him. And he calls his show every day, and he never does a call without making a sarcastic comment about Tuscaloosa Jim.
Yeah.
I mean, this happens. This is the veritable Cobra and Mongoose I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They hate each other. They're enemies. I couldn't believe my ears. I heard Tuscaloosa Jim call, and I almost turned off my TV because, quite frankly, he bores me, and he's such an egomaniac, and he's always wants to know how great he is. And he made an unbelievable change. He said at that time that Mike Leach has changed my life. He said, says, I understand now. It's not about you. It's not about your ego. It's not about all those things. The things that he did just touched me deeply. And he says, I'm going to change my life because of Mike Leach.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And then he hangs up, and right behind him is I-Man. And I-Man, I said, oh, boy, here we go. He says, I'm going to tell you something. That was a great call by Jim. He said, that's one of the great calls I've ever heard Jim make. I'm really impressed. I wish I could have found the words to use that he used on that call. His two mortal enemies.
Yeah.
Neither one of them knew him personally. The Mike Leach changed everything. I thought, wouldn't it be great if our country could have something like that? Think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, the healing properties of that. And I won't even go into the stories.
Of one man, and his actions and his kind actions.
And wasn't about himself at all. Yeah. And he didn't want any glory. But anyway, I was just deeply touched by it. Yeah. I did write a column about it, and I loved all the stories I read and heard. I talked to Coach Spurrier about it, and I said, well, you guys were different. He had an interesting observation. He really liked Mike Leach, and his son works for him, as you know. And two local kids are going to go there, the Whittemore brothers. One's already gone, and that one's going to go and play for Steve Jr. And he said, people say we're alike, Mike and I. He said, we're not alike at all. He says, he doesn't run a tight end. I do. He doesn't play golf. He doesn't work out. He said, we're just both different. And they were just both different. And they affected the game of football and college and whatever in a way that few have by being different. God bless them both. And God bless Mike Leach for what he was.
Yeah, absolutely. Hold those thoughts, buddy, because again, the best guests you'll ever have are the great writers, because you think about what you're saying and it rings true what you've just said. I mean, it's so powerful. We're going to be right back with more Saturday Sidelines Roundtable after this quick commercial break.
Done, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Trying to wolf down some goldfish with the extra cheesy blast during the break. That is tough. Anyway, going back to what you just talked about, Mark Hamm jumping here with us, talking about Mike Leach. Look at all the coaches today. They don't want anything to do with the fans or the media. They're just miserable. Who put them there, Mark Hamm? The fans. Who owns college football, as Buddy Martin, when we talk about the fans. Mark, your take on that and how refreshing it was to have someone like Mike Leach come along in our lives for 61 years.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's, he was brilliant. He was an attorney. He was smart. I mean, he was a Renaissance man, if you really look at all the things he was doing. But people said he was unique and eccentric. But, I think that's just who he was. But, to be involved with people, I mean, what do the fans really want? I mean, they want to be close to something and part of something. And, the coaches that I've met here are, the ones that were willing to be part of that were a guy like Bruce Pearl. I mean, Bruce Pearl was a friend of my neighbor, and he would come down to the Dead End Street where, we started Dead End Barbecue up here. But, what a great guy. And he would talk to anyone. He'd talk to anywhere you went. I mean, he enjoyed it. The person that was completely opposite of that was Derek Dooley. Derek Dooley didn't want to speak with anyone. He didn't like people. He didn't want to talk to anyone. And, the fans, as a matter of fact, I have a friend of mine that was in charge of I guess some of the gals that were the ones that would show the families around, and they were driving him around campus one day. And one of the students ran up to him and said, "Hey, what's up?" And he said, he kind of like, after they left, said, "I hate this SHIT." He goes, "I don't like dealing with this." And she was like, "Well, it's your job. I mean, fans are like wanting to talk to you."
You're in the wrong profession.
Yeah.
You're in the wrong profession, man.
I don't like this shit. I want to do something else, or I don't want to be involved in it. I'm like, and he was a guy that took 3 days to arrange his books, in his office, in his his office on campus. I mean, just a different dude. But, Coach Heupel is very, very open as well. And, people just want to be part of something, and they want to be close to coaches, and they want to be close to people they can, be engaged with. I mean, these guys have got to have a life. I mean, to be able to go out in public and, be swamped all the time is difficult. But, I think if you respect them and give them their space, I mean, they're great guys. I mean, a buddy of mine saw Coach Fulmer not long ago at a gas station and started talking to him. And Coach Fulmer had this, they had a great conversation just pumping gas together. He's a guy that was very approachable. So, it goes a long way if you have, some stock value. If you've built up some stock value with the fans and you lose a couple of games, but they like you, it's a little different if they hate you, like we did Dooley. They just wanted him out immediately. Yeah,
Buddy, you've covered a lot of coaches. Steve Spurrier, win or lose, he was the same, wasn't he?
Well, he was a little worse when he lost. He didn't like the losing part at all. But he could be tough. I've known him a long time, as you know, and I know his flaws. He knows mine. He was special, and sometimes things look better in the rearview mirror than they are right now. When you're on the beat and you're trying to get a story, and reporters and who do this, God bless them, because it's difficult. The fans all hate him. The coaches won't talk to him. The writers and reporters are trying to get information. The coaches are trying to keep him from getting the information, and that exchange is difficult. Now, here's the thing: I think Josh Heupel is a disciple of Mike Leach, but Mike Leach taught everybody that he could just become uncoupled and become a regular guy. I love the story about it when he lived in Pullman, Washington, and he was rolling on a condo that year, and they said. He was walking to work. He loved it. And they asked him, when are you going to move out of that condo? He said, never. I don't want to move out of it. Well, he had to move out of it. They eventually moved like 2.5 miles away. he continued to walk to work 2.5 miles. And some snowy days, that was a challenge. And they told a story about, I guess it was, I forget which writer it was. I think it was Ross Dellinger. I want to make sure you give credit to these guys, who said one day he saw a rabbit and followed the rabbit, and all of a sudden he saw a raccoon, and he began following the raccoon everywhere, all the way up to people's yards and everything else in the snow. And somebody asked me, he says, "What did you do that for?" He says, "I wanted to know where the sucker lived." I mean, and what he was being honest. That's he has such a curious mind. Here's a guy who, I mean, people think of him as being a class clown or whatever. This is not the guy who sat in the back row and threw spitballs at the girl in the first row. He was paying attention to history to figures like Geronimo, who was
he had an
one of the
active
heroes,
mind
about Sun Tzu, one of the Spurs guys, and he loved Bluebeard and a pirate. You know, he was a pirate. You guys know about Bluebeard?
Blackbeard, wasn't it?
No, a Bluebeard.
I don't know about Audrey's a pirate fanatic, buddy.
Well, Bluebeard was the one at least I read, was Bluebeard. Now, this is what was in the story I read. I don't profess to know that, but Bluebeard was a fictional pirate. I looked him up. He killed 6 wives, by the way. You know, and it's all about, and so I saw his last tweet that he wrote about Hail State, Cowboys being allowed and all that. And I wrote, you know, I don't know who did that tweet, but I'm sure the tweet was different. Would have been different if Mike wrote it. And I wrote a kind of an imaginary tweet for Mike and what he would have said. Again, he loved the Warriors. You know, he loved the Sun Tzus. He loved those guys. And he was paying attention in class and not throwing spitballs. But here's a tweet I wrote for him. I thought this would have been the one I wanted to hear Mike write because it sounds more like him. Let me just get this real fast in this piece I wrote. And it's the tweet he sent out allegedly, which was what is on his account, it said, just got word that cowbells will be allowed at the ReliaQuest Bowl. Let's fill Raymond James Stadium with maroon and white Hail State. Now, think about the irony of the Pirates and the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
All right, now, I wrote, no doubt it will, but I'd like to think his final tweet was more like this. When we play in Raymond James, I wonder who will be in charge of firing those cannons. And if the ammunition they use anything like the stuff by Bluebeard, who, by the way, was a wife murderer, and was married 6 times, but none of that stuff was true. I wonder if his beard would have really been blue if he was a real person. By the way, how do you make a beard blue?
That would have been unsequitur thoughts coming from Mike Leach's head. There's no doubt. You're spot on, buddy.
Channeling Mike Leach. There you go.
You are
and he was heavily influenced by Geronimo too.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. Geronimo and Sun Tzu were 2 of his, and others, but Bluebeard was one of his guys. There was somebody else in there too.
Yeah, well, last night I stumbled upon a column, and I think it was written maybe a couple of days ago by Dennis Dodd of CBSSports.com. And if you can read that, it would be really worth your while. He talked about his relationship with Mike Leach, and it started when I think he may have written a critical story after a game when Mike was at Texas Tech, and Mike called him, and they eventually met at his office, and they had a discussion, and afterwards, you know, their relationship completely changed. And he actually went to Mike's vacation condo in Key West, and he said he spent basically 24 hours with him. He said they hit every bar in Key West. He talked about every subject imaginable.
Awesome. What a day.
He gets back to his hotel about 12 midnight and says, what the hell just happened? You know, but because anytime you spent around him was never a dull moment. He shared his philosophies on everything. And as Buddy mentioned earlier, when he was at Washington State, actually, the very first part of the column talked about his first in-person meeting with Mike Leach, when it might have been when he was I can't remember, but anyway, he was in his office, and he was munching out of a Hardee's bag with one hand, and he had his remote control on the tape machine watching game tape on another. And he said his life was so simple. But like you said, at Washington State, he lived about 3 miles from the stadium. And Dennis compared to him multitasking by eating lunch and watching game tape at the same time. And Mike said when he walked those 3 miles from his house to his office in Pullman, he would also make phone calls on the way. And then he would have lots of times people that would just walk with him to make sure nothing happened to him.
Bears.
Engage in different conversations. And Dennis said it was the ultimate example of a guy that was a master at multitasking.
Exactly.
The column was amazing. And if you have a chance to read it,
I read it. It's
please
good.
do so. Yeah.
Well, buddy, I mean, that's the importance of getting the word out. And I wish coaches would get back to that. I mean, where, they wanted to be like you talk about Bruce Pearl and, Pat Dye. These coaches were more what we grew up with. We loved them because we knew them. And
front porch coaches. Front porch coaches.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, my friends Clay Templeton and Rob Ruffin, Alabama was at the Liberty Bowl in 1976. We were in 7th grade at Gray St. Luke's, and they snuck onto the practice field over at the University of Memphis off of Grandview. Coach Bryant was up in the tower. They snuck over there. They just wanted to go to practice and see the Bear in Alabama. Rob Ruffin, Alabama, he was born wearing a crimson helmet. And great friend of mine. And they got out there on the practice field. Security guard came up and grabbed them. And Coach Bryant was up in the tower and on that bullhorn, and he said, "Hold on a second." And he literally, I remember this, it's a true story. He came down from the tower, walked over there to him, put his arms around him and said, "Well, they just wanting to come see us practice." I think they took some pictures with him, and he shook their hands, autographed a couple of things, and gave him a hug and said, "All right, I got to get back to work." But you don't forget stuff like that, buddy. And don't ever stop telling those stories. Jimmy, Frank, Mark, everybody listening, that stuff is important because it lets us know these people are real. And buddy, the wealth of knowledge, in your head, it's just unbelievable. It's like an artist has a portfolio that they carry around to show what they've done. Yours is up here and it's in the print medium, but reading what you write, again, it's like swimming 2 miles, riding 50, running a 10K, or lifting weights with your brain. Don't ever stop doing it.
Well, thank you for that. But I think storytellers are storytellers. I know there's several good ones on here right now, and knowledge is part of that. I got to be honest with you, I was dumbfounded. I was chastising myself. I didn't know Mike Leach.
Yeah.
Why didn't I know Mike Leach? The system precludes us from knowing them, and let's give these coaches a little break. It's not the same as it was back when we were, young and drinking beers with coaches and whatever. It's a different time, and they're prisoners of the media. And yet the media, there's a side of the media, if you just get them together, where you can say, okay, look, it's not about that. It's not about being first. It's not about being, when they're getting clicks. It's not about that. It's about having real dialogue to learn about you the way Mike Leach did.
Correct.
He didn't care if you were a ball boy or a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. He treated you as, I want to know about you.
And that's a rare human quality.
It is. And I'll tell you something else. I'm guilty of this. Shut up and listen. That's what we have to do. We talk too much. I know I do. Mike Leach listened a lot. He was known for yabba, but he listened to everybody he talked to.
Watch Paul Feinbaum this week. You watch him. I study that guy. And he went to my high school, CBHS in Memphis, finished at White Station. Watch him when he interviews people. I mean, he listens. And this past week ought to be put into a mini series. Buddy, you're right. And buddy, when you say something like that, that's like Ted Williams wanting to give you hitting instructions. Okay.
Did I ever tell you I pitched to Ted Williams?
What?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I'm sorry.
Jim from Tuscaloosa.
I couldn't resist it, but I did.
Tell us.
In a charity game in the 60s. All the old Red Sox came here because they had all their minor league teams trained.
Yeah.
And my wife was part of the Junior Women's Club. And this will be a short story. And she said, "Can you help us write a script all the old Red Sox guys, Bobby Doerr and all these people are coming out. They're going to play in a game against the women. Okay. Well, now, I didn't think of one thing. Here's the problem. Sorry, ladies, but you ever try to throw a baseball, get it across the plate? Not many. A lot of people.
They needed a designated pitcher.
Me. And here's the story. I wore a dress. Okay, I wore a dress.
Oh, God.
And by the way, just so you know, Ted and I had a little history. I was a local sports columnist. Every now and then I'd drop a little zinger in there. Like I heard Ted broke a 7-iron on number 10 yesterday. He didn't like that. He didn't know me. And so he's on the bench getting ready to come to hit. And somebody says, who's that guy on the line? That's that sports writer, Rodney Martin. Oh, that's that guy?
I'm going to send one up the middle.
No. Here's what he did say. He came to bat. I swear to you, I was shaking like a leaf. I wound up in my dress and I let it go and it came in like this. Chin music. I threw chin music to the thumper, okay?
Oh, my God.
He stepped out of the box and said, okay, pitch. The next one's coming through the box. Watch your shins. Watch your shins, all right? I thought, oh, my gosh, that was
my God.
About 2 pitches later, he tapped it to right field and circled the bases. Game over. That's how it was supposed to end. And so I didn't know Ted. I saw him downtown about 3 days later. He's walking out of Sears where he had a contract, and he had I'll never forget, in his hand, he had a bunch of underwear. He was buying at Sears, and he walked over and I said, Ted, I'm Buddy Martin. I'm the sports writer who pitched against you and the other day. And he looked at me and like he was going to glare me down. And he said, how you doing? Put his hand out. Shook hands, talked for 20 seconds, and off he went. That's my tip.
Wow. And he was down in Florida a lot because he was a champion fisherman.
Yeah,
he was a champion
bone fishing the Keys. Yes. So he spent a lot of his time playing golf with my old high school coach here in Ocala. I know.
In fact, I think he liked the horses too. So I think he was in Ocala. Yep.
He just liked being in a smaller town.
Well,
what a story.
He was very close to Bobby Knight, and he gave Bobby a lot of fishing tips. Because you're right, Ted was an absolute
champion,
exquisite fisherman. Yeah, I mean, he was elite, and I'm sure he was elite in just about everything he spent any length of time on.
Still the greatest hitter.
In fact, buddy, I think he had a tie-in with Sears with some of their tackle and stuff.
Evan Rudes and all that stuff.
Exactly.
He later built a place over here in Citrus County where he had these hitting things. He brought people in to talk about hitting. He had seminars, whatever.
Buddy, hold those thoughts, everybody. This is absolute great stuff. We did not know
That's fabulous.
I put Buddy on the list of people that I know who actually pitched to Ted Williams. That's one. Okay, other than Jim.
And got him out. And got him out. Even
no, he got a hit. He got a hit. He got a base.
Oh, he got a hit.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959 right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
They are the law in Auburn since 1959. Wow, they've been around a long time. Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson, and Short. At some point, you're going to need a lawyer. They're the best ones. Go to them. Check them out on our website. They're there to help you, whether you live in Auburn, anywhere. They have 9 of the most capable attorneys and a great support staff to help you. Interesting story. Rusty Howard, sales manager over here, he and Greg Smith at Red River Ford Toyota, Wynn, Arkansas, open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Service department, 7 a.m. to 12:30 on Saturdays. Great opportunities right now. Check them out on Facebook and all the social media, the 12 days of Christmas. Rusty was telling me a story, speaking of great stories, about he was in a deer camp over in Sheridan, Arkansas, back before cell phones and all. He said, I had this old codger that used to come up there for a couple of weeks every year, and he didn't really hunt much. Every now and then he'd go sit up in the stand, but he just used to like to come hang out and do what people do in hunting clubs and drink and whatnot. So he came up there one time, and he was got up there, and you had to go into town because no cell phones. You had to go to the payphone, and called up his wife, and he said, "Honey, you didn't pack me any damn underwear." And she goes, "Oh yeah, I did. They're in your gun case." And he goes, "Oh," she goes, "I know what you do up there." I mean, just think about that.
Drinking whiskey and playing cards.
Absolutely, and staying up all night at a hunting club. But, buddy, that's the coolest story about Ted Williams, because
that's great.
We all grew up, Mark, Jimmy, Frank, Buddy, going to Sears. And, man, the best Sears in Memphis at Laurelwood, it's gone. I mean, they put in, I don't know, what is it, Nordstrom's Rack or whatever now, and it's gone. We lost Sears. But you talk about true value, and you just can't make this stuff up. Mark Hamm, jump back in here. Saturday, college football, basketball, Roundtable. Buddy Martin, man, I mean, you are Santa Claus. This is so cool having you on here. That's one of the coolest stories. You need to write a book. But anyway,
Mark, he does.
Yeah, I've got enough of them up there right now.
He does. He really does.
Short stories, just like Tony Barnhart, Lauren Smith. You are part of the greatest generation of writers that we know. You probably knew Furman Bisher and all, but that's why we love having you on here. Mark Hamm, jump back in here while you can on Crazy Saturday.
Well, I mean, there's always good stories out there, right? I mean, everybody wants a good story when you're out there and you're, dealing with some of these great legends that are out there. I think, when I was growing up, I played quarterback growing up, and Roger Staubach was the guy for me. And I remember out in Collierville, I met him. He came out to the Carrier plant, and I had on my Cowboys, jacket, and he signed it, and he threw with me, and he signed a photo of himself and gave it to me and took pictures. And it was just, I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and it was unbelievable. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those deals you don't wash your hand for a month after you shake hands. Remember that on the Brady Bunch? He met Joe Namath. "I'm not going to take a shower for a week." And Mr. Brady said, "You already don't anyway."
Right. Well, I think it's good. I mean, these kids like that. I remember when, my son was young and Eric Berry was here, and he loved Eric Berry, and he met Eric Berry, and Eric Berry took his picture, and Eric, signed something for him. And actually a couple of years ago, after Eric went through cancer, they had an event up here at Lonesome Dove, and there's an Iron Chef that's down in Texas. He has a place here. Tim, I forgot Tim's last name. But anyway, there was a cook-off between Eric Berry, his dad, who played football at UT as well. James Berry is a good friend of mine. He's a big barbecue guy. And we had a cancer donation, our foundation. We did a fundraiser. So it's the Iron Chef against Mr. Berry and Eric and his team. And I did all the judging. We had celebrity judges come in, and kind of got it kind of goes in line with what we're talking about doing with some of our barbecue at some of these places, right, Rob? Yeah. But it was awesome. I mean, everybody wanted to be there. We raised a lot of money. The biggest thing was raffled off with somebody's private plane to fly to Kansas City to go see Eric play, go in the locker room, get a signed jersey in the locker room. And I think somebody paid $50,000 for that. I mean, people are willing to do that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, the people that are on this panel right here, all of us, Jonathan Winters, I wish you were here, but we help it. I mean, that's what we love to do on here. And Buddy, along the line, Mark is a world champion barbecue. Brisket and barbecue. He's been second place in Memphis in May Barbecue Fest. Trust me. Wow. We started in high school. You did a whole hog in the medium strip on Madison Avenue in Overton Square. We won. My team did it for 28 years. We never won again, but we drank a lot of beer. We never lost a party, like they say about the Grove. But think about it. Bill Hancock last week wants to do a Final Four of barbecue. He said, "Rob, we'll get Carolina barbecue, Memphis barbecue, Kansas City barbecue, and Texas barbecue." We need to figure out a location. Maybe we do it at the Cherry Farm or something, but you'll have to come up. Mark will be on there. Jimmy, Frank, all of us. That's the kind of stuff that's fun, and raise some money and put it toward a good cause to help people.
I volunteer to be a judge.
Hey, you're going to be cooking, Duffy, don't you? You ain't getting off that easy.
Hey, I love volunteers, man.
Yeah.
I'll volunteer to be a judge.
I do too.
I love volunteers.
Buddy, like he said, getting to meet Roger Staubach. I mean, I got an autographed football by that 71 Cowboys team. All 47 pictures of the players autographed, Tom Landry and everything. And my goofy, I went and played football in the street with it and ruined it. But man, I wish I hadn't have done that.
I still have one of Buddy's friends' chin straps, Terry Bradshaw's chin strap, when he came to play the Saints on a Monday night when I was a Tulane ball boy. We got to hang out in the visitors' locker room, and Terry Bradshaw, after the game, when he's walking up, he goes, "Here, kid," and I still got that chin strap. I still have it.
God, I've still got Pat Sullivan jersey from the Auburn LSU game, 1970. Auburn lost 17-9. Mike Anderson made a game-saving tackle against Auburn's running back Wallace Clark on the goal line. Buddy, you think about this. Don't ever forget to just thank people along the way. The guy opening the door for you, parking your car. I mean, it's Christmas. That's not the only time you should be nice to people, is it?
Well, I mean, it would be nice if we could just all do random acts of kindness.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think we live in a mean-spirited world. And like I said, if we had something to bring us together, if a person like Mike Leach can unify mortal enemies like ones we talked about, what is possible? It's not what he said. It's not how many games he won. It's the way he lived his life. And he was so unselfish and he was so interested in the other person. Like I said, shut up and listen. I'm going to do that because I talk too much. But I think he was just his natural curiosity. He wanted to know about you. Yeah. And I always think of that terrible story, that story about the two egomaniacs who are sitting at a table. This is so typical. I have one friend that calls me, by the way, and he asks me how I'm doing. And then for the next 20 minutes, he tells me how he's doing. Good friend, but that's how it's doing.
I got a couple of them.
Yeah, Ryan reminds me of the old story about a guy sitting at the table with his friend. They're talking. He says, "Let me tell you what's going on in my life." And for 25 minutes, he talks about nothing but his own world. Didn't take a breath. 25 minutes. He stopped and paused and said, "Okay, enough about me. What do you think of me?"
Oh, buddy, Frank referenced it a minute ago. You're good friends with Terry Bradshaw. We all grew up, Jimmy, Cowboys fan. Jimmy lives and dies with the Cowboys. A lot of people do. Most valuable sports franchise in the world. Terry Bradshaw, what he's meant to the NFL, what he means to you as a friend. How's he doing? Tell us about him. And I would absolutely love to have him on the show because he's one of the coolest people and greatest, most positive people, in my opinion, out there anywhere.
Yeah, he doesn't do that many shows anymore. I did, many hundreds of shows with Terry and loved every minute of it. I tweeted this the other day because he is named to the Broadcasters Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow.
In New York for that. And I tweeted this saying, I knew from the minute I sat down with him in 1982 for a segment on the radio show in Denver that my friend Joey and I were doing, and it had a 15-minute segment schedule and did 2 hours with Terry Bradshaw, I knew someday he'd be in a Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Yeah. I meant that facetiously, but I told my wife, I said, this guy's amazing. I don't get why we're not getting him. Wound up with a lifelong friendship, wrote a book with him and worked with him at CBS. And one of my dearest friends, I'm not bragging, he's one of my dear friends. Yeah. Talked to him just a couple of days ago. He called about Joni, and he's always joking with Joni about, okay, how about sending me a naked picture? That's his big joke, And I'd say, and that's people who heard that, they, what? He said, so finally, I started kidding with him, and he said, well, should I send Joni a naked picture? And so I tweeted back to him, Joni says she will pay you not to send her a naked picture.
He's such a genuine guy. He really is.
Talk about it. You're right. That's it right there, Frank. He's just like what Mike Leach is. I lived and worked with him for years in New York. We went to New York every weekend. And I've seen him talk to doormen and cabbies and little people and always. And recently, when he was down here like 2 years ago, we went to Starbucks, and one of the young girls was trying to get a picture, and he was in a hurry. I mean, we were in a hurry to go somewhere, and she took like 5 minutes. Couldn't get her camera to work. He waited the entire time till finally one of the baristas came out and said, well, "Let me take the picture," and took the picture for him. And he said, I didn't want to offend her. You know, that's anyway. Yeah, he's
and I back that up, buddy, because I've got really good friends in Shreveport who know Terry and see him around a lot. And everything that you see on camera, the affable, likable, self-deprecating guy is exactly what he is in person.
True.
Yeah, and you build relationships wherever you go. You know, think about throughout history. And you know, Mark talked about Derek Dooley. Well, his father was completely different. Vince Dooley, one of the greatest minds of history of all time. And you think about building relationships. Even Alexander the Great, who died at the age of 32, had a wife in every country that he conquered. Nothing like knowing the in-laws. I mean, but I think what you said about Terry Bradshaw, that is what we appreciate, because I don't know him. You do. But he strikes you as just the real deal. And I saw Phil Robertson, the Duck Commander, on a video one time. He said, well, Bradshaw went for the Bucks. I went for the Ducks. Not a bad, not a bad pairing. And I've met the Duck Commander 7 times, I guess, at trade shows over the years. You talk about a genuinely nice guy. Took 10 minutes talking to my kids and me, and I like to talk some, and Hallie and Wilson, and took pictures with them and talked to him about duck hunting. And you see that guy, he's the real deal. I don't know what, I think it's just Louisiana, Frank, giving you a
I was just going to say, we not only have characters that come from this state, but they're genuine characters.
Yeah.
They have that entertaining, unique quality, but they're themselves. That's what I find that the state produces a lot of. Yeah. And those are 2 great examples who just happen to be in the same high school backfield.
Yeah. And you think about, like, Mark and Audrey and I were at the Tennessee-Alabama game. We saw Roman Harper and got him to come to the tailgate that Mark has up there, guys. He spent an hour and 15, 20 minutes with us, hanging out, just eating brisket and, you know, drinking road sodas and having a good time. He stopped along the way, Audrey, would you say at least 150, maybe 200 people shake his hand, taking pictures. He didn't turn down a single request. Roman, man, I like him. He's the Alabama guy. He's still a good person. And
he won't have to. He doesn't have to pay for one drink in New Orleans. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
my son won't have to pay for a drink here.
Wilson's moving to Charlotte January 2nd. He goes, Dad, I've got to meet him, because he played for the Panthers for 2 years, and of course they love him up there and SEC Network. But buddy, we're about running out of time, wrapping up. Thank you for taking time to come out here with us, because, and I've had Joni, your wife, in my prayers. You sent me that message last week about her heart attack, and it's not just a prayer for a certain request, like I need to get some groceries, I need to get gas. It's a constancy in prayer, as Father Saji at St. Louis always said. He goes, do it all the time. But buddy, you're real. Tony Barnhart, Lawrence Smith, I mean, all these, Ken Capps, Bo Carter, great writers, Billy Shershot yesterday. Just keep doing what you're doing. Take every day, like you say. Mike Leach, Tony Barnhart, you've said it, reminds us all how to treat people, doesn't he? And we should never forget it.
Absolutely. And I can't just realize I've talked for 45 minutes and never mentioned Florida's playing a bowl game today. That's how important it is, man.
Go Gators, go Bears.
Well, prayers for Joni. Joni.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate that, guys.
Likewise.
I'm going to dodge off of here now and say, hell, I'm going to go get myself ready and check on Miss Joni. Thank you. Nice to meet Mark. I didn't get to see his face, but guys, appreciate you all. And thanks for having me on, Rob.
Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you this week. And again, take care of yourself. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up now. A lot of fun today. I think, the general takeaway is these coaches, Mark, you know them. Your son's working with all the coaches up at Tennessee now. Jimmy, God, you know a ton of them. Frank, it's the, you look for people that are genuinely sincere. Mark, I did not know that. You didn't tell me till just now Audrey's over here going, he got to meet Roger Staubach, and she grew up
That's
like
cool.
a block from me. She's pretty jealous. I mean, you got to shake his hand.
When I go home, I'll tell you what, I'll be home in Collierville with my parents. And actually, I think the picture is over there. I think my mom's got it, so I'll bring it out and I'll show it to you. But
we're going to come see that.
Yeah, well, you got to come over for Christmas Eve anyway. But
I know.
The other thing I would say about coaching is Rick Barnes. Talking about a great guy. Rick Barnes lives in my neighborhood. I mean, he lives right about 2 blocks over, and him and his wife walk through the neighborhood. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He'll stop and talk to you. And, people are very respectful to him.
Affable.
But, just a great guy. I mean, just a solid guy that walks in the neighborhood, and you're like, hey, Coach Barnes. And everybody tries not to mess with him, But, but he'll stop and talk, but he'll just say, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. I mean, just a super good guy. And that's why people love people like that, because they're like one of us, walk through the neighborhood and they're nice to people,
Yeah. And I mean, look, we've run out of time, and guys, just along the lines of what Mark said, Jimmy, Frank, Doug Dean, Buddy Martin, everybody that's been on this show is treat people how you want to be treated. My dad always says, boy, life's complicated enough. Try to follow the 10 commandments and the golden rule and learn how to mix a good drink. So,
and we learn life is quick.
Yeah.
Make the most of it.
It is. Listen, man, you're absolutely right. Merry Christmas, everybody. I know Hanukkah starts tomorrow at sundown and goes through sundown December 26th. So, hey, man, everybody out there, celebrate, get with your family. Be careful. Don't give to get, give to give. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out, watch a lot of football, get together with your family, no matter what. Be careful, be thankful, be grateful. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Buy a round, buy drinks, do whatever you can for first responders, our veterans, and God bless America. See you Monday. We're out of here.